What's up everybody and welcome back to another Overwatch discussion video. And today, my friends, we are going to be discussing Overwatch World Cup as we now know every single team that has qualified for Blizcon thanks to the conclusion of the Paris group stage qualifier, which also means we now know all of the first round matchups. And you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen? It is prediction time. So, if you couldn't already tell from the title of the video, I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for the first round of Overwatch World Cup, as well as for the entire BlizzCon event in general. Who's going to win their semifinal matches, and then who's going to win it all in the end to become the champions of the 2018 Overwatch World Cup. But before I get into things, before I forget, I wanted to let you guys know that I'm going to try and keep the amount of details for each matchup minimal, if possible, just because I don't want the video to be too long. I'm sure you guys don't want that either. So without wasting any more time, let's look at matchup number one. So matchup number one is France versus Canada, and this is arguably the most exciting matchup of the first round. I know this is the most exciting one for me at the very least, and for good reason. Both of these teams are really good. They are both very promising. They both have plenty of Overwatch League talent on it and just Overwatch League caliber players in general for those who aren't in the league yet. And honestly, this matchup is very interesting for multiple reasons. For one, I love the fact that Soon gets to face off against Surefour yet again, just like the days of LA Gladiators versus LA Valiant in the Battle of LA. We saw these guys go head to head in all four stages in epic Widowmaker duels, and now we're probably going to see it yet again. And if it's anything like we saw in Overwatch League, then France and Soon's team is probably going to win, but this could be different this time around. I don't know. Surefour might pop off and do even more than he was doing in Overwatch League. But also the other exciting matchup has to do again with Soon, and this time with Agilities, because they are actually partners. If you didn't know, they both play on LA Valiant together. So now we get to see the two partners in crime go up against one another, just like in the old days of Overwatch Contenders when it was Immortals versus Rogue. Very exciting matchups overall, but also the tanks and the supports and everything, I think they match up pretty well together. It should be a good one. So if I were to give a prediction as to who I think is going to win this, I'm going to actually go with France. This might actually be the unpopular opinion because I know Canada is pretty good and a lot of people think that they are one of the best teams, myself included. But the way France looked in the Paris group stage just tells me that they are going to be a very hard team to beat, especially when they play GOATs. Did you see those guys when they ran GOATs in the Paris group stage? Even Great Britain had a hard time against them. The UK couldn't even take a map off of these guys. And this was supposed to be the really good matchup of that group stage. The two heavy hitters going up against one another. And the UK could do nothing about the GOATs comp. Soon was popping off on Brigitte. I mean, it's clear that he's been practicing that hero. He looked amazing. Poco Zarya was unbelievably strong. Unko was looking great on Zen. Everyone in general on that team was just playing very well. It's clear they have a lot of synergy, and that makes plenty of sense because a lot of these guys used to play with each other back on Rogue and just in previous Overwatch World Cups, so the synergy's there. They are going to be a very tough team to take down, and I just don't think Canada has the firepower to do so. And please, don't think that I'm hating on Team Canada. I'm not saying that the Canadian players aren't nearly as good as the French players, because that's not true at all. They're basically just as good. They play at the same exact level, the Overwatch League caliber level. The problem is that Canada's DPS players just don't have that same versatility as the French players, in my opinion. Because when you look at someone like Nico, the DPS player from France, he can play a lot of heroes very well at the DPS position, but he can also switch onto D.Va and play it at a very high level, thus allowing Poco to switch off of D.Va and play Zarya to let them run their GOATs comp. And France, I just don't think they have that same thing going for them. I think that Agilities and Surefour are both decent Zarya players, but they don't compare to someone like Poco. And Note's a decent Zarya too, but then he'll be off of D.Va, and who else is there to play D.Va on this team? I don't think that Agilities or Surefour can play her, unless they've been practicing in secret and we just don't know about it. I honestly think that Canada's going to have to throw some big-time curveballs at France in order to secure this victory. But I think France ends up winning this just because of that versatility factor and how amazing they look on the GOATs comp. So I'm going to say France wins this in either 5 or 4 maps. It's definitely going to be a fun one to watch. This is one you do not want to miss, especially with all the trash that XQC has been talking and how he thinks that Poco's just an idiot for thinking that France stands any sort of chance of winning. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. Let's move on to matchup 2. The other matchup on our first side of the bracket is China versus Finland. And this is one that I don't think is going to be that close. I'm sorry, China. No disrespect to your players or anything. I think they're actually really good. They surprised me with how well they played in the Thailand group stage. But I just don't think they can compare to Team Finland. This is a team that is full of Overwatch League players. They are absolutely insane. I don't expect them to lose this. It should be relatively easy for Finland. I'm going to say that they win this in either 3 or 4 maps. But again, I think that China has a lot of good players. Maybe they could surprise us. Maybe even push it all the way to a map 5. But with all the experience that Finland team has, I don't expect them to lose. And with that being said, we're moving on to the next matchup. So next up on the other side of the bracket, to kick things off, we have the United States of America versus the United Kingdom. And this is the other matchup I'm very much looking forward to being able to watch in the first round. And I'm not just saying that because I'm rooting for the United States, but because the UK and the USA obviously have a lot of history throughout their time being in existence. So I think that'll definitely add on to this matchup and make it more heated. But I don't expect this to be too difficult of a matchup for the USA to handle. I'd say they probably win it in 3 or 4 games. I wouldn't think that it'd go beyond the 4th game. I don't think they're going to be able to take them to a 5th map. The UK just doesn't have the firepower to deal with the United States. They're just at a level of their own. But the UK, they showed a lot of promise. I think they're a good team. They're at Blizcon for a reason. I think that Boombox is an excellent leader for this team. I also have loved what I've seen from Christopher, their main tank. They got a lot of awesome players, but not quite enough to deal with the likes of the United States. I think Sinatra, Hydration, and those boys are just going to be way too much to handle. And I don't think their tank line even compares to Mooma and Space, who are easily the 2 best Western tanks we have to offer. So USA wins this in 3 to 4 maps. Now let's move on to South Korea versus Australia, the other matchup in this bracket. And I don't have much to say about this matchup at all, as it's a mean mismatch. It's not even fair. South Korea is going to dominate Australia. I'd say it's probably a clean sweep, although maybe Australia can get lucky and take 1 map off of them, but I don't expect it to take any more than 4 maps for South Korea to move on. And honestly, I feel bad for Australia. They did very well in their group stage. They proved that they definitely deserve to be at BlizzCon. They just got matched up against a team that there was no way they'd beat. And I feel like that would be the case if they were going up against France or USA as well. Their only chance would be against China, but obviously they can't do that since they came out of the same qualifier. So yeah, South Korea wins this in 3 to 4 maps, easy peasy. Now let's talk about the semifinals. So the first matchup in our semifinals bracket, we have France versus Finland, and this is one that we can only pray we end up getting to watch because it will be a good one. I guarantee you that. I'd say France is going to end up winning this one in 5 maps, but it will be very close because I think Finland matches up kind of well against France. Obviously, if I think France is going to win, that means Finland just doesn't quite have what it takes, but they'll definitely make it competitive if they were able to take South Korea to 5 matches. I definitely think they have what it takes to be the dark horse candidate to make it to the finals of Overwatch World Cup. These guys have the potential to go on an unbelievably insane run in this thing, but I think France will end that dream because I think soon, and this is just a prediction of mine, I'm not saying this is actually going to happen, but it's my prediction, I think Soon's going to have an unbelievably good day at BlizzCon, and he will destroy Finland, and he will make Linkser and Taimu regret even showing up to this event. I honestly think Soon's going to do that well on Whittle. He looked as sharp as ever during the group stage, and if that keeps up, I don't think Linkser or Taimu stands much of a chance. Even if they combine their efforts, I just don't know. Soon's Whittle has just been looking fantastic, and also his Tracer, it's out of this world. Obviously, Linkser and Taimu can't even compete there, but you never know. Maybe Soon ends up having a bad day and Linkser and Time will end up having great days. It's just a prediction after. Also, I do have some question marks about how Finland will be able to deal with Goats comp. I think they'll be able to run a Goats comp of their own without much of a problem. They have good supports. Big Goose is a fantastic Lucio. Shaz can play Zen very, very well. I'm not sure how well Linkser or Taimu will be able to do on Brigitte, and I don't know. I know that Linkser can play Zarya, so that won't be a problem. It all depends on how well Taimu can play Brigitte. And obviously, when you have Fraggy on Reinhardt, it's going to be a show. He's one of the best I've ever seen. So aggressive. But if France is smart, they'll be able to punish that aggression, and they will end up winning. Because I think they have the better Zarya, the better DPS players. They have more flexibility. So I'm going to give it to France in 5 maps. And of course, in our other matchup, we have USA versus South Korea, Part 3 at BlizzCon. And I say Part 3 because in 2016 they played each other as well as 2017. And honestly, this is probably the United States' best opportunity to defeat South Korea. I know their team is absolutely stacked, but the USA have a lot of really good players. And a lot of these players that I doubted, like Sinatra and Raucus, Hydration, and even my boy Moth, they all showed up at the group stage, and they looked fantastic against Canada. If they can carry that over, and Raucus can just keep playing very well on the Ana, Moth on the Lucio with his epic shot calls that we all know that he can do, I think the USA could really give South Korea a run for their money and end up winning this entire event. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think that they could definitely take this to a map 5 just with all the insane curveballs they can throw at South Korea, because they threw some epic curveballs at Canada that I wasn't expecting at all. I'm sure a lot of you weren't either, like with Sinatra going on Reinhardt and then running triple tank with Muma on Winston and then Space on Diva. That was very unexpected. Maybe they could also break out some other weird comps with Sinatra flexing onto a tank, which I do want to add is a very interesting way to show that you can be a versatile player. Instead of being able to play very well on a lot of the hit scan heroes, instead you just be good at Tracer, like Sinatra, but then you can also play Ryan and Wrecking Ball / Hammond, whatever you want to call him. Maybe he'll even break out like Diva or something, and we know he can play Zarya. It's going to be very interesting, that's for sure. But I just think that South Korea has so many of the best players in the world. You can't really go against that, as much as it breaks my heart to say that, since I want the USA to win more than anything. But I'm giving it to South Korea on 5 maps. They have Carpe and Jonek, who are probably 2 of the best players in the entire world. Honestly, they just have 7 of the best players in the world on that one roster. They're absolutely stacked at every position. I think they'll be able to adjust to whatever the USA throws at them, and to whatever the meta may be. Even though they were struggling a little bit in their group stage, I think they'll figure it out and they will dominate, and they will end up winning this in 5 maps. And finally, in our final for the Overwatch World Cup, we have France versus South Korea. And I'm going to give this to South Korea in the end, I think, guys. It really breaks my heart to see them have to win a 3rd time in a row. I don't like seeing the same team win over and over again, but I feel like again, like I said with the United States matchup, I can't go against all the best players in the world being on the same team. They're going to be able to figure out the GOATS comp that France runs. I think they'll be able to counter it with their coaching and with all of their absolutely amazing players. And honestly, when we just compare rosters, I think they are somewhat even, but the tank line and the support line is definitely better for South Korea. I think that the DPS can kind of keep up. Like, I think Soon versus Carpe is an interesting matchup, and Nico versus Sabiobi / Libra, whoever it may be. But I just don't think that France will be able to compete in the end, especially if their GOATS comp gets shut down. Like, obviously they looked fantastic on that during the group stage they were in, but I just don't know if they'll be able to handle whatever South Korea throws at them, if that makes any sense. Like, even if Poco's going ham on the Zarya and Suna and Brigitte and everyone else is playing well, if South Korea is your opponent, it might not matter in the end, because they're just so good. They're so disciplined, so smart, so amazingly gifted mechanically at the game. I just don't know if anyone can beat that still. I still lack the confidence to say this team can end up beating South Korea for sure this year. I just can't say it yet. Hopefully I'm wrong and we can come back and laugh at this video. Maybe South Korea gets dominated by USA or France or someone. I would love to see that more than anything. But my final prediction is South Korea wins Overwatch World Cup 2018. Oh, and before I forget, the winner of the 3rd place match, in my opinion, will be Team USA over Finland in either 4 or 5 maps, for any of you out there that are wondering. And that just about wraps up this video for today. So if you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and enable notifications by hitting the bell. Also, if you enjoyed this content, I'd very much appreciate it if you could give this video a like. Also, feel free to let me know how you think Overwatch World Cup 2018 will turn out. Let me know all of your predictions down in the comment section. And until the next one, I'll catch all of you guys later.